Thank you for tuning in to Small Talk with RainKraft. If you've been with us before, thanks for coming back. And if you're new here, we promise you some fun and insights. So, why small talk? Well, both of us love podcasts. But who are we? I'm Subha. I'm a coach and a content creator.
And I'm Hasita. I'm a marketing consultant and copywriter. I also try to do too many things in too little time and figure it out as I go along.
Small talk was created to do multiple things: be relevant to today's workforce, of which we are all a part, be mindful of how it offers advice, and to remind ourselves that together we grow. And we hope to do all of this in 20 minutes or less, most of the time. We genuinely believe that anything of value can be shared concisely. And that's what we're here to do, while also making the experience meaningful for you and for ourselves. Let's dive into the episode then.
Before we jump in a few things, there will be a few screaming children and squawking birds in the background because that's just us right now. So please try to filter through that and give us a listen anyway. We'd be very grateful. So when we picked conflict as a topic, why did we do that, right? Because I think a lot of us are on edge right now, and a lot of us are slightly irritated, maybe a little angry, I would say. And it just made us think, typically in a professional context, it's not considered a nice thing to do to be angry, right? Generally, we expect very polite conversation and then we see them in the morning, we say bye in the evening, and we are done. But when we are working all day and all night, how does a boundary even look anymore? And therefore, maybe that's precisely the reason why we're all so angry with each other all the time. And curiously, ever since we started talking about conflict on the blogs, on social media, we've been dealing with our own share of conflict quite a bit, I would say. So, do you want to get it off of your
Totally. And it's interesting that both of us, when we were thinking about, hey, what do we want to talk about June? What do we want to talk about? And both of us just said conflict at the same time, right? Because we were really struggling with boundaries that were getting pushed just way too often. I think the first time I really realized that I need to get better at boundaries was when I started the whole corporate to kind of freelance consultant, your own gig setup. Because you start working with multiple clients, and then everyone thinks that you're pretty much on hire for the day, so they can just pop into your life whenever it's convenient to them, and you will be fully available at 100% battery charged, and gearing and ready to write or whatever it is to provide the service for them. And you have to learn to say that, hey, my my engagement with you is limited to this, and we need to really be clear on what that boundary is. Otherwise, we're just trampling over each other and not adding value and just creating friction.
But that's the thing, right? I mean, how many of us really realize that we are trampling on another person's boundaries? I don't think we do. And that applies to us as well, in the sense that God knows how many people's nerves we have gotten on, no, in the last month or so. So it's just such a big blind spot overall. And then to have that conversation. So I try to avoid conflict as much as possible, really, because I feel like it gets in the way of efficiency, or because it, kind of, once I have a bad conversation, then that day is gone for a toss for me. Like, I really overthink it. And therefore, I try to avoid it so much. But yeah, I mean, how do you even identify that there's a problem? Firstly. And secondly, how do you stop it from getting so big that, you have to have an out and out fight?
No, so true. I think that's what both of us have in common. We both are trying to avoid conflict as much as we can. And maybe that's why when it does occur, that trigger point comes, I don't know, maybe a little faster, or we are not really willing to compromise. I don't know. But there is definitely a thread that runs common for the two of us for different reasons, right? Like, I know that anything that impinges on my productivity or that process or that flow that I've set in my mind uh, triggers me. So if there is somebody who is trying to pass on their inefficiency to me, then it really triggers me, and I have to show a lot of restraint. And then that I have to show a lot of that amazing E word empathy, right? And show it, but also keep thinking that, hey, why doesn't the other person have to show empathy? Why can't they
Yeah, why
take a
should I be the
minute to,
one doing it all
yeah,
the time?
yeah,
Yeah.
why can't they take a second to think about when are they reaching out to me? What are they asking for? What is their expectation? And I think let's just dive into a few of our favorite
Yeah,
sad stories, if
happily,
you will.
happily. That's my favorite part of this, actually. So I've been doing a lot of thinking about negative experiences to prepare for this, to be fair.
Right.
And I was just thinking about this certain experience with a client early this year. You were also consulting on that project. It was a last
Mm,
minute thing that had come up, and they
mm,
wanted someone to write their landing pages and things like that.
mm,
And I was so excited to do that, and I was very happy to have gotten that opportunity at all. But literally, the first conversation, I think the sentence they used was, "We don't expect you to understand what we do, but just
mm.
do this anyway." Right? And I'm thinking,
Mm.
yeah, if I'm not understanding what you do, then it's your problem, right? Not mine. So, how do you expect me to write 10 pages of content without really
Mm,
getting an understanding of what you do? So, I
mm,
think these are all, I think to me, they feel like one step forward, three steps back. Like you've hired someone, but you don't want
mm,
to share something with them that is important for them
mm,
to do the job.
mm,
Likewise, sometimes you just assume that, okay, like you said earlier, now that I have this person on the job, I can just call them at all times of day and night. And not just I'll call, but I expect them to pick up. Like that's my pain
mm,
point. You call
mm.
if you want to, I will pick up if I want to.
Very true. I think it's interesting. There are multiple kinds of boundaries or other assumptions people make. One, like you said, is about the timing, right? When someone reaches out to you, I mean, we just got off a call, right, on time zones, and the person was quite obviously expecting that we will realign to another time zone in a way.
Yeah,
And we had to be very clear that there are ways of working which can ensure that your work gets done, and I am still living in my time zone in my life,
yeah.
right?
Not to mention the
Um,
number of times we diplomatically negotiated. Yeah.
yeah. So one is the whole time thing that, okay, when I call, I've seen a lot of clients, I can kind of hear their irritation when we say we were on another call, or can I call you back, I'm another call, almost as though, oh, what's this other life that you have,
Yeah. Oh,
who's
right.
this other client that you have. It's you can kind of hear it in their voice. And
Yeah.
I don't like to remind them that, hey, finally, we are the equivalent of, or we are the gig economy, right? So we are finally all freelancers, and we are working across multiple clients. That's just how it works. That's the
True.
new that's the new rules of the game. So understand that nobody is there. If you want me full time, please hire me or someone like me full time,
Yeah.
right? And say goodbye to the agency or the freelancer that you're working with. But set them free and then get what you want. But don't expect that from a freelancer.
Freelancer. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think one is the whole time aspect, which is something that all of us need to get better at. I think the other boundary is in terms of how you reach someone, how you connect with someone, and I think you know where I'm heading, right? So
Yes, I do. But please go on.
yeah, no, I mean, I still can't for the life of me figure out why someone thinks differently on this point. That if I've exchanged 4 or 5 emails with someone, then isn't it the most commonsensical thing to expect that I would respond to them over email? and hence if there is something that they're expecting from me, they should check their email, and I will not be sending a carrier pigeon or sending them a WhatsApp message. But the whole, it seems like, oh, if I have access to you over email, I have access to you over any channel that I choose.
Yeah, like
um,
the only thing left is to come knocking at the door. Like,
yes,
literally, that's
yes.
all. Yeah. And I know the specific instance that you're referring to. Yeah, but I was also thinking, like, what was going on in this person's mind? Because you would later mention that things actually worked out with
Correct,
this
correct.
person, right? So, why? Okay, one thing I can see is probably panic because I think they were in a
Mm,
hurry to get something
mm,
done
mm.
and they just wanted to kind of reach out perhaps and find like whatever means and methods they could to reach
Correct,
out and that they
correct.
implement. But also maybe the fact that they thought they were doing you a service actually by
Mm.
reminding you that they exist. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I get it.
email
In
is
case you
like,
forgot, yeah, email
yeah,
is supposed to be a batch process. So I'm like here real time reminding you that I need something or we need to connect or whatever it may be. Yeah. No, I get it. I just, in the context of boundaries, I see it as something I need to give them permission to do. For
absolutely,
example,
absolutely.
I need to give you my email ID, right? So that's a permission.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
I give you that email ID of mine, I've given you permission to connect. So if I give it to you and then say, "Oh, why did you email me?" then that's wrong too.
yeah. But at the same time, like you said, if I have not given you my number, then how did
Mm,
you find it and why are you hounding me
mm,
on that number?
mm,
Oh,
mm.
makes sense. But overall, I think I'm glad that did work out and that things got smoothed over there.
Yeah,
Because
no,
I
it did.
don't
And
know.
interestingly, I think the person, yeah, it was coming from a state of panic and urgency,
Yeah,
and also that it's become that way that isn't this the most natural form of communication? Why would you not want me to send you a WhatsApp message,
yeah,
right? So that, and it's become a tool where it's almost impossible to blur the line between, or rather, the line between personal and professional is so blurred. Like for for email, many of us have a personal email ID for maybe friends and family and
yeah,
just correspondence that's not related to work, school emails, this, that, whatever. And we have a professional email ID, and you may choose to check your personal one in a batch process couple of times a day, and the other one you're pretty much online.
yeah.
uh, but in WhatsApp and you're not able to do that. So for those of us who think in those compartments, it becomes very difficult.
Yeah, I know. If only the world were a straight line, but it's not. Yeah, I know. This reminds me of that game of kindness that I think Aruna also brings up during transaction analysis. And I think it's part of that book as well, wherein overall it's like the other person is so, they don't understand why their kindness is being reciprocated this way. Like, literally, I have found
Mm,
you, I have hounded you, I have, done everything on my part to get your
mm,
attention, but why won't you give that to me, kind of thing.
mm, mm,
And that's what makes it worse, right? Especially when you don't want to engage with someone on that level, because there are
mm,
different levels of coaching agreements for sure.
mm.
And I'm sure 90% of them don't involve people calling you at all times of the day and night.
Correct, correct.
So that, yeah, blurred lines. And generally also, it's a cultural thing, no? We don't really think twice before turning up at a neighbor's house, or at least we didn't until
Mm.
2020.
Correct, correct. We didn't. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a little, at least in the concept of, yeah, going to someone and knocking on their door was pretty prevalent. So
yeah.
I guess this is in some way,
The
if I know
equivalent.
where you live, I can come there, right? So,
I think, like, if you ask me, the ever efficient person for a solution to this problem, I would say block people. Like, literally, that's what I would do. That's what I have done, I would say. I know it's not very productive, but I think in a way it helped me because the people that I blocked, they knew it. They knew that I had blocked them at a point. And I think that made them a little more sensitive to how they were behaving towards me. But yeah, if you
yeah.
have any healthier means of dealing with this, happy to hear them.
Yeah. No, but I think it's good that we got triggered a few times because it's made us also think about how to manage it better. Because, like you said, somewhere I don't know, it's kind of like there's some signal that we are also sending out, right? That we're reachable, we're accessible.
Yeah,
You can kind of call us anytime and we will respond and we will apologize profusely and whatever, right? So uh, I think it's important that we start building the skill set of saying, hey, this is not a good time, or this is not a preferred mode of communication, and I'm going to also start getting better at saying that front rather than kind of waiting for some incident. For some of the work which I do, which is very B2C, so it's a lot of individuals who I don't know
yeah,
and who are coming for their personal interest, so they're not representing an organization. They don't have that flexibility in terms of rather they're coming for something, they're coming for coaching, or they're coming for their resume, and they also have their full-time job, so this is not part of their job, right?
correct.
So
Yeah,
when we connect with people for our content work, it's part of their job, so they fit it into their work day.
yeah,
But when I in these B2C kind of engagements, it's something that they're getting done outside of their work day. So I think I also have to be a little more cognizant of that and say, hey, these are the 2 3 ways in which you can reach me, and also make sure that when they do reach out to me in those mediums, I am prompt and kind of stick to whatever my value system is, that I should
yeah.
respond
But
immediately.
also at the same time, when they use medium number four, you're not going to respond as
Correct,
well.
correct,
Yeah, that makes
correct.
sense. That makes a lot of sense. But I like what you did today when there
Mm,
was this call and someone who was supposed to show up didn't show up, and this is something that happened last week as well with the same
correct.
people. I think it was nice that within 5 minutes you called time of death on the meeting and just told them, hey, guess what? Let's do it, some other time. And I think they were very keen to do it later today, if I'm not wrong, right?
Correct,
But
correct.
I think I liked the way you said, no, it's going to be too late for us, and therefore, catch you later type. So that was nice.
And this is early in the engagement with them, right? So I felt, okay, we are as it is, working across 2 time zones. So probably the best way is to start that at every interaction, I make it clear that these are our working hours, and yes, we'll kind of try and um,
Accommodate.
adjust here and there, but yeah, it's not going to make us swing crazily.
Yeah. I think words are better because my preferred way of dealing with conflict is sending people things. So that's
Mm.
not usually very. So after 2, 3 days of, basically ignoring each other, then I will either call truce or they will call truce. So this specific person in this instance that I'm talking about, so that did cause a little bit of anguish for me specifically because there was this expectation that I will
Mm.
be available at all times of day and night, and that
Mm.
all they have to do is ask.
Mm.
So I think we didn't speak to each other for 2, 3 days, and then I sent them a box of mangoes, and they sent me a book, and I guess now we are even. So that's all.
So that's what I should do, right? I should generally irritate you and then
No,
do what I
no,
get in
please use
return.
words. And please teach me how to use words as well. Because I don't think sending mangoes is a very healthy way of dealing with conflict.
No, I think the key thing, and finally we realize that everyone respects that clarity.
Mm,
So as long as you're being largely reasonable, right? So I don't think we're telling any client that, hey, my window is only 3 to 5 p.m. on Tuesday and Thursday,
mm,
right?
mm.
Which is like a extremely narrow window for anybody to work with. But we're saying that we follow India hours, and if you want to reach me, and it can be super critical, but you will find me if you reach me via email, or if you reach me by putting a note on Trello or whatever is that tool that we've decided we will work on. But if you're not going to reach me by choosing something outside of this.
Yeah, so true.
And demonstrating that regularly. I think that's where also I need to figure it out, because if I've said that, hey, I won't, I generally am not using WhatsApp for work, especially in these B2C engagements. I do end up using it for the B2B clients. If I'm going to say that, then I have to make sure I don't, in my moment of need, jump into it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
say, oh, this is an easy way to
So let me
help
just
a
kind of,
person.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think we do
yeah,
that with children also, right? We say consistent boundaries rather than good
correct,
boundaries. The same rule,
correct,
if you reinforce multiple times, it kind of registers in people's minds.
correct. So I think that honesty, if it's really impossible to set these boundaries if we are not honest and transparent, saying, hey, this is how I like it, this is how I don't. And also, I think another interesting thing to do would be upfront invite their boundaries, in the sense, ask them.
Yeah.
I think we don't do that, right, Asita? We should do that a little more often. Like, we have a new client or a new engagement,
Yeah.
and
Like
we say, hey, how would you like to be
yeah, yeah.
contacted? And if they happen to say that, I don't know, like, contact me over Facebook Messenger or something, we say upfront that I'm not there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we agree on a preferred mode of communication.
True, true. Just also thinking largely maybe before we close, we like to blame everything on COVID, no, these days.
See, I like what you did there. You set a nice boundary saying, hey, it's time to close.
Thank you. Yes. Hungry. So, yeah. I'm just thinking, like, generally, these days we like to blame everything on a pandemic
Ah,
because it's the first scapegoat, I would say, in that sense. But a lot of
ah,
these problems are really more fundamental than that. We have been stepping on each other's toes left, right, and center all times of day, traveling for work, opening our laptops,
mm,
opening our phones at all times. And now it's beginning to have an impact because we are doing all
mm,
of these things in the same space.
mm,
Previously, it
mm,
didn't bother us so much because there was some
mm.
semblance of, okay, this is work and this is home. But now that
Correct,
that's gone, it's having an impact. But that doesn't mean COVID is the problem, right? The problem is much bigger than that.
correct, correct. No, I think you're right. This has just brought it to the surface very prominently because we're not in our workspaces.
Yeah.
So we're feeling the pinch also more,
Mm.
right? I think if many times I've got calls, like, let's say 1 to 2 is lunch,
Yeah.
or actually for me now 12:30 to 1:30, because that's when the school lunch breaks are.
Okay.
So that is sacrosanct. Then when somebody calls there, it feels like, oh, you've stepped into my
Yeah.
room uninvited. But if I were I don't know, if I were at WeWork or if I were in an office space, I would take that call and I would kind of just walk about and finish the conversation, right?
Yeah, yeah. But maybe this is the opportunity to do the same thing at work as well. You know what I mean? Like if
Hmm. Hmm.
12:30 to 1:30 is lunchtime, then so be it, right? So that people know we are also
Hmm.
human. We have to eat sometimes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Thank you. Well, this was fun actually. It was so nice to do this. I realize we've been speaking for 26 minutes straight.
That's nice. I think we'll do this more often, put out our pet, I don't know,
Peeves.
converse. Yeah, I was going to say peeve. I thought this is going to be a pet peeve every time. Knowing us, it can be also,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
we are very honest about our pet
Yeah,
peeve.
yeah.
So, looking forward to more honest conversations. So, Hasita, thank you for this.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening till the very end. We hope you had some fun. If you have some thoughts on the episode's content or tips to share with the audience, please send us a voice note at speakpipe.com/raincraft. That's speakpipe.com/raincraft. And we'll make it a part of a future episode maybe. If you prefer writing in, we are at connect@raincraft.in. See you in a couple of weeks.